Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to my first World of Tanks replay of 2016, and it's going to be something of a derpy one, so I guess that's appropriate because we're going to start as we mean to go on, I suppose. Well, not that I mean to be derpy, but it just kind of happens anyway. This is actually a slightly older replay. It's a 9.9 game, and I'm platooned up with Sebedy there in an FV183. Although, unfortunately, he doesn't have a particularly great game, but a lot of that is to do with the fact that there is artillery on this particular game. In this particular game, there's two very, very nasty arties on the enemy team, a Conk GC and an M5355. Now, I kind of like the Airfield map, but with artillery, it becomes a lot more static than it might otherwise be. But before we get into the actual gameplay, I'm going to talk about why I chose this particular one, because I could have actually shown you better games, but I specifically wanted an IS-4 game, and this is the only one I had in the archive. So the reason why I've picked this is the tank I'm going for in my on my NA account, and yeah, that shot was just wasted. You can't really afford to waste the shells in these things, or IS-7s. They don't carry a lot. I've had games where I've run out pretty much. So it's a very predictable grind. I know exactly what I'm getting into. I've basically kept all those tanks all the way up from the KV-1 up to the IS-4 itself. And in fact, I've got all of the IS-7 line as well, barring the IS. But I have the premium IS-2, so I've kind of got all of those as well. The reason why I'm going for this, well, I guess I kind of like it. I mean, it's more of an all-rounder than the IS-7. The IS-7's more of a brawler in-your-face tank. This is a little bit more flexible in terms of its gun. I think the gun handling is a little more predictable, but it doesn't hit quite as hard as that 130mm. This is the same 120mm, by the way, that you get on the ST1 and the I-10 as it is now. So this IS-8, which is now the I-10, is about to have a very bad day. He takes a couple of hits inside from the rain and gets finished off by Object 430. I think he also took an arty hit there as well. And those artillery are, yeah, they're going to be a problem because they really can lock down the middle of this map. The enemy team do have a couple of tank destroyers as well. I mean, the Ag Tiger in particular, we can pretty much predict that they're going to be in D2, that kind of area, because there's not really a lot of option for them to go. Now, the shot on the Lorraine that I took was like, that was just waffing the reticle all over the place, but that was a much better shot into the Object 430, so I was at least being kind of semi-competent at times in this game. But I don't know, you'll see at various points, you'll just kind of facepalm and wonder why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I kind of have that same reaction when I'm watching this back as well. But there are a couple of specific things. I mean, I was worried about artillery, and we've already seen a trace for an IS-7, so I've got that to be worried about as well. Now, one of the things that IS-4 has to worry about that the IS-7 doesn't quite as much is the lower front plate. And you can pen the lower front plate in the IS-7, but it's a lot more troll than on the IS-4. It's a definite weak point of this thing. And also, this has got a much softer turret top than the IS-7 does as well. But still, all around, I think the IS-4's quite a tough tank, generally speaking, and the armour, especially on the sides, is very, very good. So you can use your side armour more than the IS-7, because of course the IS-7's got that pike nose to be working with, or working around a lot of the time. Whereas this, well, it still does have kind of angled shoulder armour, but it's quite tough. So there are times when you can side scrape in this that you just couldn't in an IS-7. And in an IS-7, well, you're just pretty much forced to reverse side scrape. Although I don't know that you really want to in an IS-4, because there's that kind of shelf on the engine deck that's just going to be quite easily pennable. So we've got a good armoured presence here, this VKB and myself, and I decided to poke around this side a bit, which is probably not artillery safe at all. But the VKB is coming around with me, and I decide that it's very static. I mean, somebody needs to do something, and that can occasionally be a bit of a trap, that feeling. You get that feeling of, well, I don't just want to sit here and sit here and sit here, because that's very boring static gameplay. But sometimes you push forward and immediately get obliterated. Now, fortunately, it's not me the artillery's focusing on, because the VKB is a very, very tough, well-armoured tank. It's got better frontal armour than the IS-4 does. So perhaps artillery felt that was the higher priority. And this might be a rare instance of artillery picking on a target based on the tank that they're shooting at rather than using XVM stats. Unless the VKB just had really, you know, like better XVM stats than me, and that's why they were getting focused. I don't know. But he's taking the brunt of these hits here. Now, I've actually taken my first damage, that SP1C shot in the side, and I don't know if I even realised at the time that artillery was specifically going for the VKB, but I'm being very, very cautious here. I could just go finish off that Object 140, but it's in my mind that the IS-7 is still around here somewhere. I know the minimap trace is there, I know he was last spotted coming to the middle, he's here somewhere. There's also tank destroyers up there, but although they're not going to have a particularly great shot at me here, you don't have to worry about TDs quite so much on this side. Pushing around the opposite way around the outside is a pain coming into tank destroyers, but from the side of the map we've spawned on, it's not so much of a problem. Anyway, the RU takes my track, so I immediately repair. I've finished off that 140. Zebedee, meanwhile, just took out a bat chat, so that's quite useful. And, oh, I've spotted the IS-7, but he's actually in the position he was last spotted in. Like, the exact same position, which is slightly odd. So if I can get forward a bit here, I can be potentially a bit more in cover. And yeah, I know the the RU is spotting me, so... Again, a shell wasted, like, that was not... I don't know why I fired that. I was never going to hit the RU blind unless I was extremely lucky. Zebedee gets a shot into the IS-7, but he came right into the line of fire of the tank destroyers and got, unfortunately, nuked because of it. Now we can see, at this stage, what I call, of course now, no, looking back, you know, that held me up for so long, the IS-7 is actually AFK, yes. He got to that position and then his client crashed, or he had to quit out the game, or I don't know what, but, yeah, that's what was holding me back, was an AFK tank. So that's a bit of a facepalm moment right there. We've also taken out the Type 62 that was up there that managed to fizz a shot into my side armour, and you could see the thought processes going on, because I was turning my turret back to the AFK IS-7 to, oh, I'll just farm some damage, and then it kind of occurred to me, maybe I should shoot the thing that's actually shooting back at me. But it kind of played into my favour, because I was able to turn and shoot the Type 62, and it was a bit of a lucky shot. I did have some lucky shots in this game, I will say. Although not so much on that Yag Tiger just there. But, yeah, it kind of played in my favour, because he thought, okay, he's going to shoot the IS-7 again, and I can just sit here a bit longer, load another shot. But when I whipped my turret back round and shot him, it caught him by surprise. But it was totally not planned. That was just, you know, my brain catching up with, maybe I should shoot the thing that's shooting at me. So, the AT-15's dead. Unfortunately, I didn't quite kill that artillery. Would have been nice. Didn't quite roll high enough. He sat there on 2 health. But if I'm lucky, maybe I can get this RU-251 kill instead. And it'd only be a little bit more damage because he's just been splashed by artillery, but I get the kill, so that's 5 kills. And RT gets taken out by our RT, and there we go, that's the game. So the result was pretty decent, and actually the reason it was so decent was it wasn't just 4,000 damage done, it was also just over 3,000 spotting and assistance damage. Because the spotting in this game sometimes makes all of the sense. Now you can tell our SB1C must have had even more spotting damage than that, because he had 2k damage, which was pretty good, but he must have had another 3-4k damage spotting. We had an Object 704 with, pardon me, just over 4,000 damage as well, and yeah, the rest of the team, well, they were okay. I mean, we were quite comfortably winning that one when it came down to it, but you can't predict that kind of thing in a heavy tank, though, getting 3,000 spotting. So that's why I was second on the team, and that's probably why I had such a good credit result there as well. So the IS-4, it's not the most flashy tank around. It doesn't have the brawling capability of an IS-7, but it's still a fairly solid, reliable performer. I like the gun on it. It's got a very good 122mm gun. And I think, unless I just have a sudden change of heart and decide to go for the IS-7 instead, this is going to be the one I'm going for. So it's going to be, I mean, I'm at the KV-1 at the moment. It'll be the T-150 next, then KV-3. And we'll see how that goes. So if you've enjoyed this slice of derpy action, because, oh boy, yeah, it took me a long time to get going in this one. It took me a long time to push round and realise that it was an AFK tank that was holding me back. Yeah, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.